Hi guys, welcome back to Barbie Talks. I am your real and raw Barbie, Deasia, giving you everything real and raw. And today we have a special guest, Cassandra. She is the owner of Ori Ara, a self-care company that specializes in traditional wellness for traditional women, for the modern women, for the new day and age, to give us a new perspective on how we should be really taking a hold of our actual wellness, not what we think wellness is, true wellness. And you can also read all about this on her blog, on her website as well, that I will be linking in the description. And of course, she's an author. She has her book, The Body Ministry, a playbook of your health and fitness journey. Without further ado, welcome, Cassandra.
Thank you so much. You are so sweet. You are so cute. I love this. I absolutely love this. I'm so excited to be here and be a Black Barbie.
Come on. We gotta get the vibes all the time.
100%.
So please let us know a little bit about you and just your brand, what inspired you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for the introduction. I think you did a great introduction. I mean, that's me for the most part. Like you said, I'm the founder of Ori Ara. It's a self-care company, and I specialize in bringing traditional wellness to modern women because it's really easy to get caught up in all the fads and the trends and these new ideas about what it means to be practicing self-care and how to take care of our body. And not that those things don't work, but I like to remind us that our bodies are actually still pretty, like old school. And so the old school things work and they might sound, less exciting, but they're really what our body responds to. The things that I teach, the things that I talk about are literally our body's love language. And so it responds like on a really deep and profound level. So I love talking about wellness, as you mentioned. And yeah, I do have a book coming out called The Body Ministry. My blog is called The Body Ministry. And I've taken all of the blogs and kind of condensed them down to be this really practical, usable guide for women who are starting their health and fitness journey. Because that's another thing that we've all been on before, right? We've all been on a diet. We've all been on some sort of exercise program and had different kinds of results. But the one thing that most of us do not do is the internal work. We're so focused on the outside, and then we might get those results, but we lose those results because they were never sustainable because we didn't transform the inside. So my playbook takes you through 12 weeks of doing the internal work alongside doing the external work. So if you've got a trainer, if you're in a boot camp, if you've got something going on, that's perfect. You do this in addition to it. So like the glow up is so real because it starts from the inside out.
Yes, I will be muting myself, everyone, just in case we have no extra audio. But yes, and I think something very, very big that you said, if you guys are interested, obviously follow her pages, follow everything about her. But epigenetics is a very big part of this as well. A lot of people aren't understanding how trauma is stored in the body. And I'm sure we will dive a little bit into this later, but what your work is so impactful, and more people need to know about it because the way your body knows everything.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
body knows everything. And I bring up epigenetics because I believe that some people are like, oh, is there a science of it? There's a science.
Yeah. Oh,
There
for
are
sure.
actual people researching this, and depending on your socioeconomic background, that's going to change on how, well, what wellness would be to you, your cultural background, what wellness means to you, how you have to cater your wellness to yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
please go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, I was gonna say
Yes,
one of the
please.
things, you're absolutely correct. I know that we often, it's so funny because we do all sorts of things and we're not looking for the science behind it. But let someone suggest taking care of yourself, and we want to have all the stats and all the details. We want to read, it's really interesting. But to your point, there is a science. There's a lot of science. Science, one of the things that technology is giving us is the ability to kind of like better understand the inner workings of our body. But with that being said, what I want to make sure we all rely on first is our knowing. you know what works for you and what doesn't. And don't tell me, I mean, I know we've all been there where we've seen somebody else doing something and we thought, oh, that works for them. And then we try it and we're not getting results. But because we saw somebody else do it, we're going to force and squeeze and like make something happen, and it's not going to happen for us. And so even though there is a science that explains all of that, it really should start though with your knowing. It should be you paying attention to yourself and having a relationship with yourself, having a relationship with your body where you feel whether or not something's going to work for you before you need science to prove it to you. And I really want to get us back to that place of trusting ourselves.
Yes, and getting in tune with your body through
Hmm.
that's what helps you a lot. My favorite thing to always think about, I heard this once and I'll never forget it. They said, I think it was Anwar, he's a dating coach. He said, you're not supposed to get butterflies when you're on a date with a man. You're supposed to
Come
be
on.
calm, relaxed. That is your body saying red flag, red flag. If you are around someone and you feel tense, you feel uncomfortable, red flag, red flag. If you're doing something and you're feeling like you're forcing a circle in a square hole, red flag, red
Red
flag.
flag. Yep. 100%. 100%. It's so funny that you mentioned that because I just did a podcast live the other day talking about that exact thing about how when you're dating someone, do not look for butterflies. That is not the key. The vibe being right and the energy and the butter. No, 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 no. You want to be interested, but you want to be so calm and so cool and so collected and so interested, like it's not about like the butterflies, but that's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
But to back what we were talking about, you're absolutely correct. Like we need to be curious about getting to know our own selves and having a relationship with our own self first, and then look for those red flags anytime we introduce something that's just not working. And so that's part of traditional wellness. Our ancestors didn't have that science to back anything up. They weren't
They don't
running
want to
off
hear
to
that
get.
though.
That's
People do not
probably
want to hear
true.
that.
But it's the absolute truth, and there's wisdom. Like you said, our body knows everything, and there's innate wisdom in our body if we choose to listen to it. And it's just we often don't choose to listen it. We're willing to throw all of our innate wisdom out the window if we see somebody cute on Instagram or on YouTube doing something that they say works. And so we're going to go ahead and try that, even though it makes no sense. There's no real science to even back that up, but they look good doing it.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
let me give
Yep.
this a shot. But it really, I really want to encourage you and anyone else who's listening is to first, kind of tap in to hear and figure out this has worked for me. Yeah.
So many powerful things were said already, but pause. I got so excited with you being on the pod. I forgot to say happy Black History Month.
Oh, for sure. Happy Black History Month. You're
Happy Black
absolutely correct.
History Month.
You're absolutely
And
correct.
we won't dive too deep into the ancestors, but I will say this. Anyone who's listening, just try to take one day out of a week to just look into some Black history. Stamped from the Beginning is a great film to watch on Netflix. The 13th is a great film to watch on Netflix. And I say all that to say, back to what you said, our ancestors didn't have any knowledge of all of these things that we know, and they were so powerful, which is why the oppressors want them to be oppressed because we have so much power. It is going over them that they can't even understand how are we doing this? How are we this resilient? How are we braiding exit roots and cornrows? How are we stuffing rice to make sure our brothers and sisters are eating? And,
100%.
and not
100%.
to dismiss anyone's feelings, and this is at me as well. I think in those times where our intuition, we're ignoring it and we're kind of like looking over it, we do need to really understand our ancestors did a lot and they did a lot with nothing. So we have so much time to take control over our environment, our body, to really make sure we're leading ourselves in the right direction the best as we can, or at least learning lessons from each thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So our ancestors did a lot. They did a lot with nothing externally, but they had everything they needed in here in their intuition. So you're
Yes.
absolutely correct. I mean, that was everything. That is the world. That is their ancestors speaking to them. That is God speaking. Like we should not dismiss our intuition. And I forgot, on the note of Black History Month, I actually have a Black History digital self-love care package that's a free download on my website. And one of the things that's in that care package, self-love care package, is it's a vision board, a vision board that you can make about your ancestry. And so it takes you through some questions and takes you through some prompts where, yes, you can go and research, things that, Africans and African Americans have done as a part of our legacy, but also just look to your family. This is a really great opportunity for you to go ask your mom, ask your dad, ask the aunties, ask the cousins, what did we used to do? What did your parents do? What are some of those little things that we take for granted that are part of our family legacy? There's things about how grandparents used to always say, put your baby's pacifier in whiskey for teething, okay? Write the name of a teething baby, write it on an egg and put that on the shelf because there's supposed to be healing properties in that, believe it or not. Or even just taking castor oil, right? I don't know if you have an auntie or a grandmother who's all about the castor oil. Um, Certain foods that we eat, there's recipes, like what's the greens recipe in your family, like there's a lot of richness there, there's a lot of health, there's a lot of self-care. Black folks were the original healers, the original medicine folks, and so we have this in us. We're just not going back and asking those questions because we now have science that says, oh, this is good and that is good. And every day they're contradicting each other, but go back. And so this vision board is an opportunity to ask some questions of the people who were still around in your family to learn more about your family legacy. African American history is beautiful. We should absolutely dive in and look up the documentaries and the shows that you mentioned, but you also have it just in you, in your little family nucleus, in your little family unit. Don't dismiss the power of what's been handed down from generation to generation before it came to you. So this is an invitation to really familiarize yourself. But the care package also has a fire high vibe playlist that actually is worth the download by itself. So I'd say go download that. There's also some journal prompts. There's some questions about being curious about what does Black history mean as far as self-care? What does the legacy of Black history, what could that mean to me if I better understood the power of healing in my ancestry? What could that mean for me today? There's all sorts of journal prompts and questions like that. So it's a really powerful opportunity to really dive deep into self-love and Black history at the same time.
Wow, what a beautiful way to spend Black History Month just in solace. Some people do take this time to just get in tune with themselves. And, I really do appreciate you bringing up your family legacy because it's those little micro things that we do that is just so ingrained in us that will help us get stronger with our intuition, connect more to our body and the wellness, and also connect spiritually with ancestors and the people around us. So thank you so much for providing that. Of course, I will be linking that down below, y'all. We will not be without. We will be utilizing that, and I cannot wait to listen to
Yeah,
that playlist.
yeah, yeah.
When you were saying all of that, I couldn't help. I'm trying not to make this so Black History Month, but I
Oh.
couldn't help but to think of balance. We talked about this a bit before, how balance is not real. But as you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, they kind of force this mentality of balance of it has to be a 50-50, it has to be a compromise, it has to be even because they knew the power in numbers. It might
Mm,
not be odd. There could be two people just leading a whole crowd of people. That's not even. How do you have two people leading a whole
mm,
revolution? That's not
mm,
even. That's not
mhm,
balance.
mhm.
And that's just in a history sense or just more curated to the topic we were talking about. But overall, in balance, it is something that you're robbing yourself from.
Yeah.
Robbing yourself from so much. But you said it perfectly. You said it perfectly. So please
I'm
let
trying to
us know.
remember. What were we talking about? I forgot what we were talking about, but yeah, that conversation about balance came up, and I think I gently encouraged you to instead, give thought to having harmony versus, balance in our life. Balance is something that we always, oh, I want work-life balance. Oh, I want balance. And balance, ends up making you rob one side to feed the other. I mean, think about what balance requires, right? Like if something is off, you got to take from over here to put it over here so that eventually things balance out. And when you think about applying that to your life, when you think about applying, like you got 24 hours in a day, 8 of those you should be giving to sleep, right? Let's make sure we're sleeping. So we've got 16 hours left. And we're saying that it's supposed to be equal 8 hours on work or school and then 8 hours for personal. I don't know. That feels like I'm cheating myself because sometimes you're all up in loving what you're doing. I know that, being an entrepreneur and even back when I was in school, sometimes there's things that I'm like, I'm loving everything about this. I'm in flow. The universe is working with me right now. I want to dedicate my whole all of my energy to this. But if we were to strive for balance, we'd say, I got to cut this off at this time, even though I'm in flow, it's going good, all the answers are coming, and I got to go do this, other thing. And I don't know if that feels good. Or sometimes you're 100% all about you. You just need that me time. You just need that time to rest, to rejuvenate, to recuperate. But if you have to have balance, that means you're going to stop your resting, stop your rejuvenation in order to go do whatever the other thing is. And that just doesn't feel good. So, what I say is strive for harmony. Strive for harmony. It needs to just feel good to you all the time. And it's a constant ebb and flow. It's constantly moving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving, and it allows for you to say, this is what feels good to me right now. And whatever that thing is, you are 100% with your heart all in it. And when your heart decides that I'm no longer in it, you give yourself permission. You give yourself grace to drop it and move on to the next thing that you're going to be 100% in. But you allow yourself to have those moments of ebb and flow and up and down and just being really in love with whatever's going on in that moment, not thinking about needing to balance that out with doing something else you're not feeling right now. So, yeah, that's my take on it. I would encourage everyone to strive for harmony because when you're in that flow, when you're feeling good, once again, that is your ancestors. That is God speaking to you. That is like when you know what I'm talking about, right? Like sometimes you're
Oh, I know.
working and you're just like it's flowing, like your fingers are on fire, like it's just flowing out of you. That is divine. You don't cut that off in order to have balance. You let it flow. You let it flow, and you will find yourself in harmony.
Guys, if anyone is watching on YouTube, the smile on my face is so real because I believe I maybe about 8 episodes ago, I did a whole episode on flow and
Mm.
how it is so powerful. And your state of flow is probably what's supposed to make you millions or supposed to be your success
Yes.
because you cannot stop. Like, y'all, you guys know it's the same thing. I believe I compare it to runner's high in the most
Yeah.
easiest way
Yeah.
when you're going, nobody don't want to run. If we're being honest, no one's voluntarily like, I run 20 miles. But that dopamine rush, that flow hit you get when you hit 10 miles or you hit 5, and you're like, I just got to keep going. That's what flow state is. We all experience flow state in our own ways, whether it's athletics, whether it's just unwinding, whether it's beauty for women,
Yep.
beauty for men, just self care, the standard self care, the external self care, or spending time with family, journaling, singing, dancing, like whatever makes you feel good. That is what flow is.
Yes.
And I love that you brought up flow for the balance because you can't have flow and balance.
No.
It is
No.
absolutely impossible. And many people, especially with the rise of content creators and the rise of so many different job industries opening up, so many people have various niches and various interests where they're having a hard time balancing this flow. And I am one of these people because when you align yourself with that flow state, you also have to align yourself with the harmony that you're speaking about. You have to understand, okay, when do I stop, but not in a way of taking away, but when is it time for me to take a pause on this or I'm completed and move to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and giving yourself grace to do that, right? Like I think sometimes we feel guilty or we beat ourselves up. Like that pause that you're talking about can be like fraught with a lot of like negativity. We often don't, I don't know, like we don't let that be a beautiful moment of completion and thank
Acknowledgement.
acknowledgement, like thank the flow that just came through and we are complete. And that is okay, and move on to whatever the next thing is, or just being in flow, like you said. Whatever you can get into flow about is probably where you are supposed to make your millions. That is your genius. Like allow it to live. Because if you think about it, work-life balance is not like that's brand new, by the way. Like that's not a thing. We only invented that when like the rise of corporations came around and we were, moved, not to take it too deep, but we moved from slavery out in the fields to slavery in corporate America ultimately. And it was only with that that we started to say, I need work-life balance, but you're never going to get it because that's not what corporate America is set up to do. It is not meant for that. So it literally robs us of that flow state. It robs us of our divinity. And so anytime you're tapped into flow and you let it flow, you are tapped into your divinity. You're tapped into your divine genius. And I'm imploring you, in case you can't tell, to let it be. If you did, I got to go back and watch your episode on this because I didn't know you did a whole thing on flow state. It is a gift. It is a gift.
Yes, I believe it was creativity. I actually read, I am extremely blessed of the courses I take at my school. A lot of people let stuff go over their head, but in my honors course, we had just, it was all about creativity. And we read, it's a German author, but we call him Dr. M, and he has a whole book on creativity in the flow state. So that's what my episode
Mhm.
was based off of. But it's such a beautiful thing because when you understand flow state and you understand the power of it and how it is tuned to your spirituality, your divinity, like you just said, and it is kind of your highest self at its peak,
Come
you
on.
you start to see like, oh my God, no wonder I'm so happy when I do this. Oh my God, no wonder why I find so much joy. And oh my gosh, no wonder why I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I also believe understanding your flow state and understanding the value in that helps you not only tune with your intuition, it helps your discernment grow stronger
Yes.
because you're immediately like, no, this does not feel good. I'm good. And you also see there's no need for compromise. You can feel good. You can feel in flow. You can do what you need to do and live at this level and still be successful.
Say that again. There is no need for compromise. There is no need for compromise. Absolutely not. I could not agree with you more. I wish I was thinking like you when I was your age. Oh my gosh. Because there's a lot of women like 50 plus that need to hear you preach right now, because that is a whole word right there. For real though, that again, that's that bullying and that shame that we apply to ourselves as opposed to giving ourselves the grace to just be our most authentic self. And yeah, and that is actually a part of self-care, is allowing yourself to like be like your existence
Yes.
exactly as you are is part of and loving that about yourself, not just accepting, oh, I have this thing over here that I do really well and it's really easy for me, but you tuck it away, you're ashamed of it, you don't pay any attention to it because it won't make you money or people might look at you funny or whatever the case may be. But like that's harming yourself. So bringing that, all of you to the table, whatever table you happen to be sitting at, is part of your self-care. It starts, and that's how you build, like you said, to build a relationship with your intuition and build a relationship with yourself, build a relationship with your body, is by like all the feeling that your body gets into when it's in that state. Like that is a language that I want, women to understand, to like to get fluid at that language of flow with your body. It will, because you'll notice it when it taps in other areas of your life, like we talked about with relationships. When you're in that flow state doing your work, you have a similar flow state that when you're in the right relationship, and it's not all tingles and all of this stuff. It's a flow. It's the same. And so when you tap into your flow state, you'll recognize when that similar energy is running through your body and other areas of your life, and it clues you in, oh, there's something here for me.
Yeah.
he might be the one, she might be the one. This job opportunity, that feels like flow, you know? So yeah, it's everything you said.
Oh my gosh, y'all.
Everything you said.
Please, if you see me looking down the way, I just got so many downloads. I kid you not. I'm in my notes, like writing. I'm like, I cannot forget what is in my head right now. Um, because wow, like it's so, and I also want to take a moment to two moments. One moment, I must say I'm extremely blessed to have this perspective on how, by the way God has created my mind. And
Mm,
something that I thought was such a detriment to me has now become my biggest strength. So I also will say, like, with my mindset, a lot of people can let like trauma and things, really break them down, or things that they see or be too much of a realist, really steer them in a direction. And I had to learn how to work through that. I had to learn how to work through understanding situations don't define you, but what can you get from it? How can you expand from it? How can you grow? So I have just been extremely blessed that I learned at a young age. And also we just have so many resources, and I just utilize it. And I'm very much like, when I get into one thing, we got to do a deep dive. But I don't even blame anyone after me and before me on when they get to this stage in their life, because one, it comes when it's supposed to, when you are aligned and when you're ready. And some people just aren't ready to receive the message. It's just they need time to get to that place, and it's a process.
it is. But I want you to give yourself some credit here because it is a process. It is about timing. And while that might feel like something that you were born with, you are listening to it, you're honoring it. Because I'm kind of the same way. And I had to learn that because people would walk around talking about how they're traumatized about things. And there is real trauma. I'm not saying that there's not, but experiencing trauma is not necessarily mean you are traumatized. And so I was able to create that separation, but everyone would, uh, what's what I'm looking for. They would try to like argue with me, debate me on that. Like, no, you're traumatized. That's traumatizing. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I've worked like I'm working through it. I'm healing. Like I'm okay. But I chose to give myself permission to move on, even though the world was telling me you're traumatized. You're traumatized. You need to be a victim. You need to do like I was like, I'm not. I can't identify with that. So I just want you to know that you're choosing to honor that voice and that understanding that you have, even though I'm sure there's people in your world who've told you that you're wrong or that there's a different way that they would be responding to this differently, right? So just, yeah, just know that you are doing like that's a powerful mindset, and not just a mindset, it's a powerful perspective and lens that you're allowing yourself to view the world through. That takes a lot it does, it's a process, it takes a lot of work, and you're doing it. You're doing it.
I also I forgot what the second point was, but I find it so funny of the when you're on this journey, how humble you get, to the point where it's like people have to say, wait, you need to acknowledge that, because
Mhm.
you're on this constant journey of healing, learning about more practices of wellness, meeting other people. And there's also beautiful, like, just how much we're on the same frequency, and how much, like, when I'm muting myself, I'm saying in my head, I claim this, I receive. Because when you find your tribe and you have these
Mhm.
conversations, it
Yeah,
confirms,
yeah,
okay, I'm
yeah,
aligned, I'm on the right
yeah,
path, I'm doing this
yeah.
right. And then
Yes.
for the other person, it's like, okay, great, you're there, I see you, you're doing this, like, you're good, keep going, keep pushing. Or, great, I'm not alone in this. And with the whole harmony and balance and getting in tune with yourself and just everything we spoke about in the beginning, the baseline of that is giving yourself grace, though, and acknowledging
Yeah,
all the ebbs and flows. Like you said, I loved that,
yeah,
because it
yeah.
is so many ups, downs, left, right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And understand that you are a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. You can hold both truths to be true. And that will be one of the most powerful also perspectives to navigate the world with is that two opposing things can be true at the same time. So while we want to work on ourselves and while we're striving for this greatness and to fulfill our potential, in this moment right now, you are absolute fucking masterpiece
Oh,
and perfect as you are. And really loving this version of you, whatever it is.
yes. And self-care, 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 self-care,
Yeah.
self-care.
Yes, yes,
In
yes, yes.
talking about loving yourself and you are perfectly imperfect, this, in my eyes, is really the basis of self care and wellness, not all of the extra things. Thoroughly understanding you are perfectly imperfect, in my eyes, is the baseline of starting your wellness journey and actually growing.
Yeah.
Until you can look in that mirror and be like, this has been my life to this point. It is okay. These things don't define me. These things don't mean anything specific to me besides what I need to work on and what I need to work through. That's when your self-care journey will begin.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me, if I may, offer another perspective on the perfectly imperfect, because that was my motto, my mantra for so long. And then I literally remember waking up one day, like in my mid 30s, and was like, who's perfect? Like, who is the person
Mm.
I'm comparing myself to say that I'm perfectly imperfect? Because we start with the perfectly. So it's like, oh, I'm doing good. But like, who's the perfection that I'm comparing myself? I have not met her. Have you?
Yes.
And so, in understanding that there is no perfection that I can be imperfect compared against, I'm just who I am. Like, that's it. I'm the most Cassandra I could possibly be. You are the most Deja that you could possibly, no one can do you better. Like, there's this, you are it. You are her. You are the niche, right? Like, you are the whole culture of you. And so, and I think that language matters because believing that perfection exists in some sort of agreed upon objective, place out there is, I think, disempowering. The perfection is you and however you show up. And you can call how you show up an imperfection, but again, what are you comparing that to for it to be imperfect? There is no such thing. And so, and I think that's part of that grace. That's one of those things that I remember waking up that morning and having that epiphany and being like, I'm so perfectly me. I'm perfectly me. You can't tell me that I'm not perfect because I am. Have you met another me that's better? Show me her, please. Drop the location because I need to go to pay a visit. There's no better. Who are you talking about? So, really just appreciating the perfection that is me. That's it, period. Hard stop.
Yeah, no, wow. I love the power in speaking to people and having these just transparent conversations because, okay, we can flip it to me. I will be very transparent in this moment. I'm a perfectionist too, the down. So even your explanation of that epiphany you had and what I said, now what I said wasn't surface levelly false. Some people, that's what they need to do to get them through the day. But hearing that perspective is, will I ever say that again? No. No, I would never say that again because you're completely right. But I say all that to say these mantras and these methods, this is the power of connecting with like-minded people because it's not negating that you're wrong, but it's giving an expanded view, it's giving a different perspective, or it's letting you kind of cue like, you do need to work on that. I do need to work on my perfectionism and understanding you are enough just as you are. And it's funny how those small things like creep into little things like that, and you have to like, I didn't even realize
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
representing myself in that way by this statement, by this mantra,
yeah.
or this one action.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you're absolutely correct. This is why, who you surround yourself with is so important because you're going to have people that either speak to your limitations or you're going to have people that speak to your potential and speak to like there being no upper limit for you. And not everybody knows how to do that. Not everybody has gotten themselves there to be able to speak to having no upper limits into that full potential. And so right now, as you're, getting ready to graduate, go out onto the world, do all these amazing things, be very, very mindful of who you decide you're going to link arms with and associate with because it's so subtle. If all they know is limitation and only
Mm.
can speak to limitation, those little subtle words are going to start getting embedded in your subconscious and it ends up becoming who you are. And so really allowing yourself to be expansive in who you get to know, and even if it's not like anyone you've ever seen before, heard before, someone that you shouldn't be friends with, I encourage you to go, explore what those connections look like, and let it expand your mind, let it expand your world. Like it's powerful. The people you surround yourself really are everything.
Wow, yeah, that was powerful. I don't have no response to that because that's another period. There's nothing that needs
Yeah, hard stuff.
hard stop, nothing that needs to follow. So you guys heard that loud and clear. We're gonna move to self-care 101
Okay.
because let us know the real self-care, the
Yeah.
real tea, because it is not what everyone is saying and what social media is perceiving it to be.
Yeah, so I'll talk about this in two ways. So, first, I always like to dispel the myth that self-care isn't just for Sundays, right? Like that's the first thing is
I
that,
love that.
and I'm a self-care Sunday kind of girly. Do not get me wrong. I'm all about my self-care Sundays, but we did that for a long time and look at us, many of us are still tired, overwhelmed, burnt out, all of the things, and it's no wonder. It's no wonder if we really thought that self-care, that taking care of ourselves intentionally once a week was enough. It's no wonder we feel this way. And so, what I talk about is self care being a daily practice. And when we make self care a daily practice, we have the energy, we have the ambition and the motivation and the inspiration to not just start, but to finish all of the things that we have in mind for ourselves. Like again, it's part of us having the fuel to go the distance and to reach our potential. But the idea that self-care is just for Sundays, as fun as that might be, it's really limiting on our potential. And when you look at what we typically are doing on those Sundays, these are all things that are outside of ourselves. These are all things that when we do them, they don't add up. They're not investments. They don't add up to make our value increase. True self-care are those little micro actions that you do consistently. They're like making regular deposits in your bank account that do add up over time that make you more valuable. You guys right now, late teens, early 20s, um, who, if you start practicing daily self-care now, by the time you're my age and you're in your mid 40s, how amazing do you think you're going to look and feel and be? But oftentimes we look at self-care as being these other things outside of ourselves, and these are forms of self-care. When we get our hair done, our nails done, the massages and the mimosas, like those are definitely forms of self-care, but those are more like luxury edition forms of self-care. And so when you see those luxury editions, what we're really saying is that we're privileged, right? Like, I'm privileged, and that's okay. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a luxury girl, I'm a privileged girl. There is nothing wrong with that. But what people should understand is that self care is so much more basic than that. It is so much foundational, much more foundational. Self care is inexpensive, if not free. It is, it's our birthright. There are no barriers to entry. And so self-care really comes down to the foundational, like fundamental, basic things of caring for ourselves. It's rest, it's water, it's eating high vibrational foods, it's movement, and it's knowledge of self. It's those five things that if you practice those on a daily basis, they do add up over time to compound to make the return on your investment you priceless. You're priceless at that point. You can't tell me right now that I'm not priceless because of how much I invest in myself, right? And not all of us can say that. Or if we do, we're pointing to the bag. We're pointing to the tips that we got put on. We're pointing to the sew-in. We're pointing to something that has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with us. So don't tell me you're priceless when everything you got can be taken away, right? Don't tell me that. So I want young women to understand that this investment in yourself, in the ways that I just mentioned, those are the things that literally get deposited inside of you. No one can take away, and they add up over time and they make you priceless.
Wow. The investment in the price list, I really hope I do not forget to talk about those two things. But first of all, with the price list, you are completely right. If everything was stripped from you, will you still be able to hold yourself the same way in a room? If you were given rags, will you still be able to have that embodiment, that power? My fate. Now, I do want to look up more Black empowered women's like Marilyn Monroe. I know we have some other people, but I don't know them at the top of my head. But kind of very similar of how she turned it on. She turned on her magnetism. She turned this energy on. We do have to think of self-care in that way of we should be able to turn our highest level on and off all the time because we put those micro investments. So it's not like we're checking our account and we like, oh, I want to get something. I don't got it. You always got it.
Come on.
You're always
Come on.
full. You're always abundant. You always have it because it's you. And
Yeah.
I love the analogy you made of the deposits and the investments. My biggest thing that I even remind myself every day, the one investment that's going to always increase is investing in yourself.
100%.
And it's just like you said, those micro habits. And the micro habits is something that I'm like learning more because also too with self-care, we think it's that Sunday thing. We think it's that once a week thing, and then we just go about our week. It is those micro habits. Are you waking up and just taking a moment to breathe, drinking a glass of water in the morning, saying gratitude, saying thank you? Are you
Yeah.
going outside for just 5 minutes and just breathing
Yeah.
air
I'm
and
telling you,
looking
nature,
around?
connection, yeah, absolutely, all of those things. And the thing is like I know it can sometimes feel like, yeah, that might be self-care, but that doesn't make me look or feel how I want to look or feel. When I wish, again, I would have started this when I was in my early 20s, when the fact is those things pay off not just over time, but they also do pay off immediately. If you're into this is a show also about beauty, right? And aesthetic and things like that. The best kind of self-care you can do is from the inside out. You want to have beautiful glowing skin. Yes, you can get the skincare routine and the primers and all of the things, but if you're not drinking water, sis, it's just not going to work. If you're not eating vegetables, nothing will give you better skin. Nothing will be a better primer for your skin and your makeup application than being hydrated and eating like green foods and fruits and vegetables. Nothing will be better. Nothing's going to snatch that waistline like getting good rest, believe it or not. Like sleeping a full 8 hours consistently will shrink your waistline so much quicker than a waist trainer will. There's things like that where it's like if you want to look good, well, then you need to like really do like the stuff from the inside that will make you look good and then you feel good. It's not something that you have to wait like hella long for all of these benefits to come pouring in. They happen immediately. They happen immediately. You want to grow long, hair, skin, and nails, eat your fruits and vegetables. Like that's where that comes from. And again, I promise you, if I had started this at your age, oh my goodness, but it's something that you're going to want to look back on and you'll be thankful for. And when I started doing this 12 years ago, they didn't call it personal branding, but that's also what it is. It's personal branding. You want to be known as the woman who makes an investment in herself. You are a woman with standards, and your standards aren't what kind of car dude comes and picks you up on and what kind of date he takes you on. Those aren't a sign of your standards. A sign of your standards are how are you investing in yourself?
Hmm.
Who can I rely on you to be in terms of like investing in yourself? That's all part of your personal brand. And someone who's going to, as women who will be entering the workforce and showing up to meetings and to opportunities, you want to show up as a woman who already knows I'm investing in myself. You want to get rid of imposter syndrome, invest in yourself. You want to have confidence, and no matter if you don't see anyone in the room that looks like us, invest in yourself. Like all of that stuff kind of melts away when you're making these investments in yourself, and it becomes a part of your brand. And people know that when you take care of yourself, they can rely on you. You're the kind of person who's going to have self-discipline. You're going to have time management. You're going to have project management. You're going to know how to pivot when, things need to change. Like taking care of yourself demonstrates so much about who you are as a woman. It demonstrates your personal standards that you take into the workforce. You take yourself into everything you do. You take yourself into everything you do. And so yeah, having those personal standards that you are first looking to yourself to meet will demonstrate the world how you want to be treated, and they will treat you only at the level minimum that you treat yourself, right? Like we can't expect people to treat us better than we're treating ourselves. We can't expect people to have higher standards for us than we have for ourselves. So start with self-care. Just those 5 basic micro habits will show up, will have you showing up to the world in a way that you'll be treated again priceless.
Yes. And no
So I
one can.
said a whole lot right there.
No, that was like multi-million dollar information. No one can treat you like a prize if you don't see it yourself. And I love that you brought up, like, I received that and I needed to hear that of just, whew, had to take a moment of just understanding that they are in direct correlation with how you show up in the workforce. We see a lot of women, especially a lot of Black women in academia, they kind of pour everything in everyone else and in their job and their work, and then they don't do it in them. And it's like, okay, they're reliable in the workforce or whatever, in that kind of environment. But then she gets home and she's not reliable to herself.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's funny because it's never flipped. If you're reliable to yourself, you're still reliable to everyone else.
Come on.
That's the crazy thing
Exactly.
about it. But the world has conditioned us to believe it has to be everyone before you, when it's like you cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't give to people what you don't have. And I think there's so many things in this episode that people should take, but I definitely do think that is something very big. And it's going to take a minute to understand. Like, I'm still understanding, but you genuinely do have to put yourself first and see yourself as such a high value that you're
Mhm.
so cocky with it. And it's not a cocky that you're like rude about. It's just, I know who I am. And
Yeah.
then it naturally, oh my gosh, the downloads are coming in crazy. I can be a very big testimony of this. When I started my journey last year, literally this time last year, I was in peak. I was in flow. My skin was just stunning. I was constantly working out. I had my micro habits just high. And the way it radiated
Yeah.
was insane. It was just people coming up to me, people this, people that, and just seeing, and not even the need of external validation, but seeing it in your 3D, right? Because all of this stuff happens on the 5D, the spiritual level, and people don't understand how it's really trickling back down to your present reality. But those small things really do make big differences. Like, I see it now as I'm, getting myself back there and adjusting to how life has shifted for me, that it's always there. Because once you have it once you see it just once, and once you had those moments of pouring into yourself, you're like, who is this person?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who is this person? Because I don't resonate with this. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And then you also see how people receive you different. And I think a lot of people try to make it seem bad. Oh, people should just love you anyway. No, people love you how much you love yourself. Point
A
blank,
hundred percent.
period.
100%.
If you are not loving yourself, you're going to see that reflected in everyone else. Because once again, it's never the other way around. If you're constantly pouring into everyone else, everyone's going to know you're reliable, but you're not reliable to yourself. So if
Yeah.
you're constantly loving everyone else, then you're doing everything and you're feeling isolated, you're feeling alone. You're feeling, oh my God, I don't know who I am, or I don't know this. when you pour that back into yourself, the right people are going to come.
100%.
The, the
100%.
environment will be there and everything, but
Yeah. No, 100%. And I say that as someone who's worked in corporate America, my most recent position or my last position was as a vice president of human resources. When I'm looking for talent, when I'm looking for leaders, when I'm looking to promote people, when I was looking for those things, if I know that the only way you are a reliable employee is by skipping lunch every day at work and working well into the night and working all day on the weekends, you're not a leader. I'm not impressed with your sacrifice. Why don't you know how to do this better? Why don't you know how to take care of yourself and meet deadlines? Why don't you know how to take care of yourself and come in on budget? If you have to sacrifice your personal well-being in order to do a good job, you aren't leadership quality as far as I'm concerned.
wow.
You're not leadership quality as far as I'm concerned. And so, as a young woman, again, as your audience is going out into the workforce and you have opportunities to share that you do get good rest, that you do take care of yourself, that you have these personal standards, those leaders are going to look at you and recognize the true value of what you bring to the table. If the only way you can get these done is like you're not saying something about yourself, saying that you'll work nights and weekends. You're saying that you don't have personal standards and values. You're saying that you have like you don't value yourself. I do not need that person on my team. I don't need that person on my team. But then another really powerful thing that you said that this comes back to is that you didn't use this word, but the word that I'll use is worthiness. It's coming back to believing that you're worthy of these investments in yourself. And when it comes to self-care 101 and where I start in having this conversation, which I should have here, but where I normally start in having this conversation is my first pillar of wellness, which is worthiness, believing that you are worthy of it. If you do not have self-worth, you have nothing.
Mm,
And we often outsource our self-worth. It's the job, it's the title, it's the income, it's the partner, the spouse, it's the things that we do on the weekends, it's the car, it's all of these other things that we outsource and say, look, I'm worthy. Look, I have these things. Look, I'm doing these things. I'm worthy. But again, those things don't belong to us. They can completely be taken away. And if you have none of those things, do you know your self-worth? Do you know how valuable you are? Many of us don't because we aren't making those investments in ourselves. And so, we often think, well, let me go do the thing. And then once I have that thing, then I'll circle back around and take care of myself. When the truth is, you take care of yourself first, all of those things will be added unto you. All of those things will come to you. Because yeah, like attract likes, as above, so below. It does start in the 5D, believing that you are worthy of all of these things, taking the inspired action, and then it lands down here in our three-dimensional reality. But we're often, let me fix the 3D, and we get hyper focused and we're toiling away and we're slaving away trying to make this thing happen. And we can even get there. We can even get the things, but we can't maintain it. We don't keep it. We lose it. It falls through our fingers because we never addressed the as above. We never addressed our sense of worthiness. And so, if you want to build self-worth, if there's any woman watching this who's like, well, that sounds nice, but how do I do that? How do I build my worthiness? You do worthy things. You
mm.
take care of yourself. You start loving yourself. The best way to improve your self-esteem is doing esteemable acts. How good does it say? How good does it feel when you say, I'm about to graduate? It feels good, doesn't it? Because
Great.
you earned that. Like you are doing esteemable things. Going to college is esteemable. You feel good when you tell people, I'm in college and this is my degree. And I'm like, that feels good. And when you leave college, what are you going to fill your esteem with?
Great question. I'm gonna have to really sit and make sure that it's aligned because I do think for me it would be this platform and connecting with other people and just keep
100%.
pouring into myself as well and just expanding and seeing where life takes me. But I would want to be a little have a few more things as well.
Yeah. Well, let some of those esteemable things be simply how you treat yourself, right? Like the esteemable things are the fact that you prioritize your rest, that you are drinking your water, that you are eating, good meals, that you are moving your body, that you are, learning more about yourself and investing in your knowledge of self. Like those are all esteemable acts that will lead to your sense of self-worth and your sense of worthiness.
Worthiness is a crazy, to me, I call it a crazy phenomenon because it's so abstract. It's so abstract, which makes it crazy because you can speak to one person and they have a completely different view of it. And then you can explain your view to someone else and you immediately change how they view worthiness. Like it's so crazy, it's powerful, which
Yeah.
is why the imposter syndrome, the limiting beliefs, and all of these things work on overtime because they know once you feel that power just once, it don't even got to be all the way. That is done. You're
Yeah.
skyrocketing to the next level.
Yeah, 100%. And I heard this quote that kind of made everything click for me, which was your subconscious only allows you to have what it believes you deserve. And that comes back to our worthiness, right? Like if you take a look, the hard thing to digest is that our 3D reality, when we look around us, is 100% a result of our worthiness. It reflects what we believe we deserve. It's just that simple. And we want to make it more complicated than that. We have all these reasons why my mama this, my daddy that, my boss, all the things, right? And I get it. I've been there. Still comes down to our sense of worthiness and what we're willing to accept, what our personal standards are as a result of that self-worth. So, don't make it a complicated thing. Like, this is not an opportunity to beat yourself up or, anything along those lines. It really is a chance to take inventory and look around. And if there's anything that you do not look, ask yourself, if I believed I was worthy, what would change about this situation? What would change in your relationship? What would change in how much money you're making? What would change in the jobs that you're pursuing? What would change in would you travel further maybe because you believe in yourself, like there's this just what would change in your life and what on all these different areas if you just knew that you were worthy. We ask ourselves that question, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And that's a good question, but I like the question of what would you do if you knew you were worthy?
Oh, that's so powerful.
Yeah,
So powerful because every single thing stems back to that. That's the irony of it, but that's the beauty in it. Because if you can look at it in that perspective and take the victim mentality and be so distraught, which you have that moment of just processing it and purging and
100%.
understanding. But then once you get past that, you're like, so I can just walk into any room and say, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. And no one's probably going to question me. No one's
Mm.
going to look twice because I know I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be here. I know I'm going to look at my bank account and it's going to be X, Y, and Z because this is what I'm meant to have. I know this job position. Just all of these things. And there's something you said and I did forget, but the power of the subconscious, of those concrete words, because your subconscious is not subjective. It cannot take jokes. It does not understand. It does not take jokes. I had to
Does
learn that
not have a
the
sense of
hard way.
humor. Yeah, yeah.
Your subconscious is not for a comedian. It does not
Mm-mm.
entertain that. It's like, oh, you said that? Okay. Great to know. It's
Hmm.
just literal, literal, literal. So understanding you have to back to the wellness in those small habits. That's something those small habits are feeding is that self-conscious that is not a jokester.
Yeah.
All jokes aside, seriously, but those small habits are feeding your subconscious to say, hey, I'm investing in you because I believe in you. You're
Yeah.
worthy. I see what you can do. And I'm
Yeah.
taking the time, I'm taking the 2 minutes, adding on this stacking habit to make sure you know you're loved, you're heard, you're seen, you're worthy, you can do this. And then you skyrocket because at any moment, you can change that belief.
100%. 100%. And I would encourage you, I don't know if you guys are like, I know when I was graduating from college, one of the major things they were encouraging that we do was go get mentors, go find women to, kind of like pour into us. And I did that. And so many of them weren't happy. So many of them were accomplished. They had all the things, but they weren't happy and they weren't healthy.
Mm.
And that just I don't know, that resonated with me a lot. I've never forgot that. I never forgot that. And so I'm not saying that you don't go look to these women, but let that be a part of the conversation that you have with them. Don't limit the conversations that you have with these mentors and professors and phenomenal women in your life, even your aunties, aunties, the grandmas, the people at your church, wherever you come into contact with, us elders. Don't limit the conversations to just about work and relationship, but about how does she feel about herself? What is her level of worthiness? How does she take care of herself? What are her self-care practices? Like, have those conversations. And it might not always be comfortable, it might not always be something that you can walk away with, oh, I'm going to do that, but you know what not to do. You recognize that unless you address these things now, you'll get to her age and still be struggling, and you don't have to. So let the conversations you have about your sense of self-worth expand beyond just the career advice that we're looking to get, and how to network. There's all these things: how to network, how to get the promotion, like how to apply. Those things are important, but in the women who you trust to have these conversations with, ask them though about their self-worth and their practices, and learn from that, good or bad, but let that be also a part of the lesson and a part of the mentorship.
Wow, I really, 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 I know I keep saying this after everything you say, but I'm really resonating with it, and I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because we all know I'm a yapper. Um, there's so much power in stories,
Yeah.
and good stories, bad stories, accidental stories, or just having those small conversations with someone. Like someone might say something to you or share their story, and they might think you take it completely different, but you pick one thing out of that story and that just sticks in your brain. So I do appreciate you kind of just reiterating, expand the conversation, expand that space to even allow that to be something to flow and something to be spoken about, because with these limiting beliefs, with the subconscious, with these worldviews that are very surface level, we keep things surface level.
Yeah.
Keep things surface level, or we keep it very negative because it's the limiting things talking, or we don't see our worthiness because our subconscious hasn't been fed and nurtured. But I'm a big believer on creating those spaces increases the collective consciousness. It expands other people. It allows them to be more vulnerable. It allows them to talk. And everything is not everyone's business, but who you're supposed to speak to things to. And that goes back to the intuition. That goes back to your gut. Just understand what spaces you're supposed to be in, and don't, just like you said, don't be afraid to talk to new people, and don't be afraid to be in those new spaces as well.
No, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you said that, because it is our part of our mission here is to raise the collective consciousness. And you can't do that from a space of lacking worth. You can't do that from a space of not being healthy. The two really do go hand in hand, and it allows you to shine bright. And I think you used this word earlier that I love, which is radiate. It allows you to radiate, and like literally you are like shining a light so bright that it like lights up other lights. It's a very powerful thing. It's a very powerful thing. And so, yeah, the more healthy and happy, we are all as individuals, the healthier and happier we become as a collective.
Yes, like attracts like, the magnets
It
are
really
real.
does. It is so not a lie.
Everything is contagious in the most possible way. If we can have negative things that are contagious, we can
Come
have this
on.
positivity flow. That's all of these great things could be contagious. So I do challenge anyone who's listening, give someone a smile today. I know that's something I started to do when I raised my consciousness level and just was more friendly to people, wave a nod, or just compliment someone. Don't do it in the acts of wanting to get something back, but you just never know, someone needs that, and just be that light in the room.
Yeah.
Sometimes people won't acknowledge it. Sometimes you'll feel like people are trying to dim you, but it really is so powerful. It really, really is.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. Say hi to somebody you don't know today. Smile at someone you've never smiled at before today. Absolutely. Like, spread the love. Spread
Yeah.
the love.
Just be abundant. And then when you're that way, you get so much abundance and so much love when you just do it out of understanding we're all in the same boat. We're all on this journey to life trying to figure out what is next and how to level ourselves up. Some people are struggling with mental battles, some people are just struggling with identity. So just
Yeah.
really even giving them that. But there's so many people that I meet on the day. You're so smiley, you're so friendly. Like, you helped me this day. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm just being me. Like, I'm not even saying that to say, I'm okay, great. I'm happy that helped you. But those micro things, just like those micro habits we talked about in the
Mhm.
actual society, have a reflect on you too. You want to be spoken about positively in rooms you're not in. You want
Yep.
people to just want to feel comfortable enough to talk to you. And oh, okay, I'm gonna say this one part because I know we gotta wrap it up, y'all. This is such a good combo, but oh, I would love as we wrap up, some tips and things like that, but definitely tips of just entering into being a young woman and just having that spirit of being friendly, knowing those bounds, kind of just like everything I said, but just a little more about evolving into a young woman that is admirable.
Oh, I love that. There's no there's no mold or model that you're striving to be. I think it starts with like really appreciating your uniqueness, right?
Mhm.
And if you're looking at another woman thinking, "Oh, I'd like to be like her," that's a beautiful that's beautiful, and we should draw inspiration from these other amazing women that are out there. But you're not her for a reason because somebody needs you to be so uniquely you. And so, like, as you're, emerging as these young women, really try to get to know who you are, not through the lens of your family, not through the lens of your friends or even your relationship, but like who are you at your core? Strip away titles like daughter or best friend or, partner or whatever, and just really and that sounds very esoteric probably. And one of the ways you can do that is just really sitting in yourself, sitting in prayer, sitting in meditation, but just, asking yourself those questions. Who am I? What do I love? What makes me unique? Who, like, really, and appreciating all those things. Because you said one of the things that used to kind of like be something you were self-conscious about ended up being one of your major strengths, and that's going to be true for so many women when you really sit with what your strengths are and begin to appreciate them about you, as opposed to trying to push them down or get rid of them. But really, I'm the kind of person who believes in doubling down on our strengths. Like, there's people who think, let me strengthen my weaknesses. Like, that's one train of thought, but I'm like, I'm not about that train of thought. I'm not trying to strengthen my weaknesses. They're there for a reason. And there's somebody else who I can partner with, get to know, collaborate with, who's strong where I'm weak. What I'm here to do is double down on what God gave me, which is my strengths and all the things that I love about myself. And I double down on those things. And so an investment in your strengths and what you're good at will take you so much farther than you trying to fix yourself
Hmm.
to strengthen these other, areas of you that they're not strong for a reason.
Ooh,
Let them be.
it,
That's
it,
part of the flow conversation, right? Like, let that be. You are good at this. Double down on this. Go ahead.
oh, it is giving. It's really giving. Like, we low key need a part two of just that topic alone because so powerful and just it's such a deep topic that you can go down a rabbit hole, but it's powerful when you know because there's no lack. If there's
Yeah.
no lack, then there's no weakness.
Come on.
So it's just point blank period. Like you said, it's not
Point blank,
for you.
period.
But
Yeah.
something you said, and to kind of wrap us up, when you said about just being that woman, having that emulating that energy that is just natural because it's you, because you're so unique, is oh, I love thinking that way because it's like, how does it feel to be you? Okay, how does it feel to just be you? There's nothing that I can do that you do that will ever compare. Like, we are just so uniquely beautiful ourselves. It's so nice to see people be their own person and just speak about their passions and speak about what they like. And I seen this poem of her across the room, and it was like she was glamorous, she was beautiful, she was this, she was that, and I seen her look back at me, and then it was, you're the girl across the room. And it's like we
Mm,
always have this perception of everyone else being put together, having this, having that, and then they look at you when they're saying same things about you or different or things that they want because you're so unique. You are
yeah.
so beautiful that there's nothing, just like you said, there's nothing to change. You're just improving, you're just enhancing, you're just
Mhm.
growing.
Yep. And allow yourself to be multidimensional. Because here's what's going to happen if you don't. You're going to get to be my age and older. I've got a lot of girlfriends who are in their mid 40s, 50s, even, early 60s, who are trying to get back to who they were when they were your age because they did not give themselves permission to be who exactly they were when they were your age. They were putting out, doing all the things to be someone else, to be like a different woman, to be what other people thought they should be. And so now here they are, regretful that they didn't spend the last 20, 30 years of their life being exactly who they were. So really, yeah, lean into that and be multifaceted, be different. Like it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to fit in any kind of box. I remember for so long just being a Black woman feeling like I was only supposed to do certain Black girl type of things and didn't give myself permission to be as varied and different as I am. And finally giving myself permission to do all the things that weren't traditionally Black opened me up and made me again uniquely who I am, and I'm so thankful for that. And I'll say that as you discover these other parts of you that are beautiful and you have interest in and you might be good at, don't try to monetize everything. You
Mm,
don't have to make everything a job or a side hustle. I know there's somebody listening who's discovering something beautiful about themselves and wondering how to make it a business. Sometimes some things are just for you.
mm,
Sometimes some things are just for your family and your friends. Some things, there'll be a time and a place for everything. But I know there's people out there who are like, well, I like this and I like that. And how do I make it all come together and be this thing? And it's like, you don't have to. Just let it live. Just let it live. Just let it express itself. And it will find what it's supposed to be if it's supposed to be something. But don't feel this need to go out there and like, I don't know, monetize it just because you like it or just because you're good at it. Some things are just for you and that's okay. Yeah.
I love that. I really receive that because we're in an age where it's entrepreneur, 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 and you want to do everything. And we talked about flow, but some flow is just for you.
It's just for you. So yeah. And then I'll leave you guys with this, like in terms of moving forward with your self-care practice. Oftentimes when we think about getting healthy, we think about, well, let me start going to the gym. Let me start doing all these exercises. And that's a good thing. I'm not going to discourage going to the gym, but what I will say is that oftentimes we go to the gym and we get going on that, but then we can't live the healthy lifestyle during the, other 23 hours of the day outside of the gym. And we know it's not about the hour in the gym. It really is about the other 23 hours outside of the gym that really make your results, right? We struggle with those things because we do them last. And what I'm here to suggest and what I do and would encourage your listeners to do is to start with the lifestyle. Practice getting 8 hours of sleep every night for a couple of weeks before you go to the gym. Practice drinking your 2 to 3 liters of water every day before you go to the gym. Practice eating high protein, high vibrational meals with lots of greens and fruits and vegetables before you go to the gym. Get the lifestyle down because those things will help you lose weight. They'll make you feel amazing. And I promise you, after doing that for 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 months, your body's going to be craving to get in the gym. You don't have to worry about consistency anymore because you've mastered the lifestyle. And adding the gym in is the easy piece. That's nothing. You've already and so and I think it's just a more graceful way to enter into that lifestyle as opposed to let me get the shoes, let me get the outfit, let me figure out, all these hard exercises to do to get fit. That's like this much of the entire equation. And because we over index on that, we never address the rest of the equation. We just give up like, oh, it's not for me, not realizing that, yeah, you might not have the energy to go to the gym and be consistent because you're not nourished. Your body has no energy because we're not sleeping, hydrating, or eating high vibrational food.
On.
So let's start with nourishing ourselves. Let's
Yeah.
start there. And then you nourish yourself, your body is going to be dying to move. And when you get to the gym, your results are going to happen like that because your body's ready for it. it's ready for it. So keep that in mind. I know we're at the beginning of the year. You guys got graduation come up, summer, spring's around the corner. Spend this time nourishing your body and getting it ready.
Wow, that was a powerful way to end because, yeah, the gym is not the band-aid fix to everything. It really, you need other things. So, oh, I can't even say thank you enough. I said thank you. I mean, my reaction was enough because, wow, this was such a powerful episode. Like,
Oh, I'm
this is
so
the
glad.
episode you need to go back and listen 3 times. We didn't talk about jobs,
I been all
networking.
over the place.
We talked about manifestation. We talked about so many things, and but even though we talked about so many things, that's the beauty of this. And I really want to just thank you for just sending us down this road and giving us these words of wisdom and just being you and just sharing your experience and just making sure your voice is heard and you have your platforms because you see the importance of this and you see the importance of people needing to know they're worthy and seeing the importance of knowing nutrition.
Yeah.
So thank you for being you. Thank you for creating those platforms. Thank you for believing in yourself. I'm so blessed to have met you. I cannot wait to continue to get to know you more, support you, and just see everything continue to flourish and blossom. Please tell everyone where they can find you, what's
Mm.
next for you, anything else you'd like to share.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, thank you again. Like I said, you followed your calling so I could follow mine. You know, my at this point in my life, all I want to do is be of service and help and yeah, get this information out there. And so you provided the platform for me to do this. So thank you. But yeah, you guys come find me on my website. It's oriara.com, ORIARA.com. That's where you'll find the Black History Month, self-love digital care package that you can download. My book is being released on February 22nd. If you're starting a health and fitness journey, you're going to absolutely want to pick this up to do it alongside to make sure you get that, like I said, the glow ups from the inside out. And this book really helps with that. But I've got all sorts of things. I've got free courses on self-care. I've got a blog on self-care. All of this stuff's on my website. So please take a look. And yeah, and feel free to follow me on my socials. I'm not really that big as much as I'd like to be on social, but I am on social. So find Instagram, all of this stuff.
And of course, you guys know I will be linking everything down below. Please, definitely the book, the Black history, everything. Support her because she is giving us life changing advice and she's giving us the tools. No one can leave this episode confused with nothing. I love y'all, but no one should leave this episode confused with nothing. There got to be one thing you
Hmm,
take from it.
I hope so. I hope
But
so.
of course, always I was just jokey jokes and I give us all tough love and joking love sometimes, but give yourself grace in this process. You are worthy, you are abundant, you are destined for so much greatness. Believe in your calling, hear yourself, trust yourself, and allow yourself to go in the direction you should be. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was such a powerful episode, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.